had, as I said, the benchmark index hitting a 4.5-year high. Sentiment certainly improved. Is there a distinction to be made by or between foreign and local investors right now?
First of all, I like that swing. I mean, it's been really good for us in the run-up to the election. And what we saw was a shift of local investor attention during that period. I think 1 week we saw local investors not really participating in the market, and of course, obviously, everybody was looking at what was happening on the political front. And but we continue to see foreign investors showing their confidence in our market, which is a very good thing. And then now we're also seeing the local investors coming back in, which again has almost tripled the levels of the volumes that are actually trading, and that is actually a great thing for us. Now that means that we are going from we are going to higher highs, and that means that we are officially in a bullish market, considering that we didn't see the market correction that we expected pre-election. And now that we are post-election, we do expect that it's going to continue that way.
Samuel, of course, providing nice incentive has been the kind of earnings reports that the banks have released. We've had the super profits announced by Kenya's banking sector, having earned individuals with significant shareholding in the listed lenders millions of shillings in dividends as well. We had NIC Bank, for example, doubling its dividend to 1 shilling a share, while Equity increased its payout by 25% to 1 shilling 25 as well. Take us through how you're feeling about the banking sector right now, because certainly the kind of dividend payouts we've been seeing by these companies does paint a pretty optimistic picture, one would assume, moving forward.
Well, I think, and I did say this sometime late last year and early in the year, that we were expecting a high dividend payout year, considering that we needed, most boards will see or will use dividends as a signaling factor. And that's the only weapon they really have to signal that everything is okay, everything is under control, profits are still going on very well, economic growth is still on the right path. And so the dividends, short of actually accepting that the political risk was expected to have some effect on the share prices. And so for these companies to protect their share price, then naturally they needed to come out very strongly on the dividend end, because we have a very dividend-oriented as local investor especially, and therefore that would keep the interest of the local investor on the market. And of course, that signal also helps to give that confidence to the foreign investor. Mm-hmm. So we have seen those dividends coming through, and that is a great thing for our market, because then it has brought heightened attention to the market, which has been driving the high volumes and the money that is being pumped into the market.
And the fact that these banks have been issuing high payouts in the form of dividends, it doesn't mean that they're resting on their laurels in terms of expansion, and they're pursuing their growth strategies aggressively. Samuel, we've had a Diamond Trust Bank making headlines, having opened 5 more branches in the country as it seeks to increase its footprint in the local and regional market. What's your view on Diamond Trust Bank? This is a player that we don't often talk about in the Kenyan markets.
Well, Diamond Trust has really in the past been very niche, has had a very niche clientele in terms of serving mostly the Asian sector of the Kenyan community, but now has started to reach out further out there in order to drive the expansion strategy, which I think is also a good thing. It's going to give them new avenues for expansion. And that said, we have seen one thing is that we are going into the county governments, which means that we are going to see a huge expansion in development spend as these counties begin to compete, and therefore most of the banks want to have a foothold in the different counties, maybe to be able to take advantage of financing all those those projects that might start to come up, and therefore they need to have a presence there if they're going to attract the sort of deals that will help them to grow their expansion agenda. We are also seeing a lot of regional expansion in the banking sector, which brings to the forefront the fact that the Kenyan banking sector is beginning to continuously become the dominant banking service offering in the region, and therefore I believe that that is also an important thing to drive Kenya as a hub within the East African region, and therefore continue to drive Kenya's economic growth.
Talking about avenues of growth and projects in the pipeline, Samuel, we had Kenya's finance minister saying yesterday that we've got Kenya issuing a $1 billion debut sovereign bond in September, and that after last week's largely peaceful elections. Market reaction to that announcement, because you know, while the commentary has been the elections have gone smoothly, and that providing a lot of the motivation for the Kenyan government to go to the international markets, we've still got these elections being contested. So some are begging the question, is this a little too premature?
Well, I don't think so. If you look at the way the elections panned out, you're going to realize that one of the parties did have a clear, one of the coalitions did have a clear majority of one Senate seats, gubernatorial seats, and also parliamentary seats, which means that there's that feeling that this was probably a genuine win, and therefore, in as much as it has been challenged, we are still seeing that there was quite a bit of a range between the contestants, and therefore it's more about those maybe malpractices or the few things that might have happened, not really on regarding the fact about who won or who actually carried the day. Now, that said, I think that that brings out the fact that we have even seen some envoys, like the Chinese envoy, the Indian envoy, going to meet the president-elect, and that tells you something, that they are confident that they are ready to work with the president-elect, and that is confidence coming out of the international.
Well, confidence to a large scale taking hold of the Kenyan markets at this stage, Samuel. Of course, the money being raised going to be channeled towards infrastructure projects to create jobs and to make this economy a little bit more competitive moving forward as well. And in that space, we'll have to put our eye on Bamburi, Ati River Mining, East African Portland Cement, players that are likely to derive some benefit from those infrastructure projects ahead. Samuel, thanks so much for your analysis this morning. Let's leave things there. Samuel Gichohi is the head of business development at Nic Securities.